Hi, my name is Mike, and I was just doing my job until that day when everything changed. I've been working as an air host for over 6 years with one of the most prestigious international airlines in the world. You'd recognize the name instantly, but for now, I'm keeping it anonymous for legal reasons, for personal reasons, and because what happened still doesn't feel real. This story isn't easy for me to tell, not because I'm trying to be dramatic, but because it still gives me nightmares. What happened during that flight changed my life forever, and maybe it will change how you see the skies too. I've practiced this in my head 100 times what to say, how to say it, but every time I sit in front of this camera, I hesitate. Maybe it's guilt, maybe it's fear, or maybe it's because deep down, I still question whether I did the right thing. But now, I think it's time. It's time to finally tell you what really happened on Flight 2107. It was just another Monday. I woke up in my hotel room in Dubai just like I had done dozens of times before. I had an 11-hour flight to Toronto scheduled. Director, I felt rested, calm, and even a bit excited. I always liked long-haul flights. There's a rhythm to them, a flow. My morning routine was always the same. Stretch, hydrate, check emails, shower, put on the uniform, and head downstairs for crew briefing. That day, everything felt normal. Perfectly normal. I arrived early. Captain Reyes was already in the briefing room, sipping coffee and reviewing the flight plans. He was a veteran, calm, highly respected, a man I'd flown with several times before. "Morning, Mike," he said, glancing up. "Morning, Captain," I replied. One by one, the rest of the crew entered. The mood was light, cheerful. We cracked a few jokes, went over safety protocols, reviewed passenger manifests. There wasn't even a hint that anything unusual was ahead. Then we boarded the aircraft, a gleaming Boeing Dreamliner shining under the desert sun. A magnificent machine. I'd worked on many aircraft, but the Dreamliner always felt special. Spacious, smooth. Passengers began boarding. Families, business travelers, solo tourists. I smiled, helped with bags, answered questions. The usual. When you're a flight attendant, you're trained to notice everything: body language, odd behavior, safety concerns, technical issues. But that morning, everything seemed fine. Until we were in the air. Cruising altitude, 38,000 feet. The seatbelt sign had turned off and the in-flight service had begun. I handed out meals, chatted with passengers, helped a mom with her toddler. Then I noticed something. Captain Reyes had left the cockpit. Nothing unusual. Pilots take restroom breaks all the time. But something about his walk caught my attention. His steps were slow, staggered, his eyelids heavy. He blinked repeatedly like he was struggling to stay awake. "Captain, you okay?" I asked quietly. "Yeah, just need a minute," he mumbled. He entered the restroom and closed the door. I waited. 1 minute, two, 5. Then turbulence hit. Not extreme, but enough to make the trays rattle and a few passengers glance up nervously. I walked toward the cockpit, knocked on the door. "Captain?" No answer. I knocked again, louder. Still nothing. Now I was getting nervous. I swiped my emergency badge and opened the cockpit door. Empty. No one was there. My heart dropped. The screens were flashing. The plane was veering slightly off course. The autopilot was not engaged. Outside the windshield, I saw something large on the radar, an unidentified object. The system had picked it up and we were heading straight toward it. I was not a pilot, but after years of flying, sitting through safety briefings, observing cockpit procedures, and even watching simulator training videos online, I had a rough idea of what was what. I took a deep breath. Hands trembling, I sat down in the pilot's chair, grabbed the yoke, tried to remember everything I'd ever seen. Then the radio crackled. "Flight 2107, do you copy? You're off course. This is Flight Attendant Mike. Captain is incapacitated. I am attempting to stabilize. I'm flying the plane. I need instructions, now." And that's when I saw it. Ahead of us, just a few minutes away, was a massive snow-covered mountain range. The plane was drifting toward it, slowly but surely. I activated the trim, pulled the yoke, tried to bring the nose up. The warning screamed in my ears. "Terrain, pull up, terrain, pull up." I whispered, "Steady, stead." I couldn't let them die. I couldn't let 276 people just crash into a mountain while I sat there frozen. I pulled harder. The plane shuddered violently. And then, We cleared the peak by just 35,000 feet. The cabin fell silent. No one knew how close we had come. I turned on the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we experienced a technical issue. Everything is under control. They clapped. They smiled. They had no idea they had just survived death by a hair's width. I ran back to the restroom. Still no response. I called another crew member. We forced the door open. Captain Reyes was lying on the floor, soaked in sweat, barely breathing. His pulse was irregular. One of the passengers, a nurse named Sarah, rushed forward. She examined him and then said something that made my blood run cold. "He's been drugged." "What? Drugged? By who?" She pointed to an empty water bottle beside him. I couldn't believe it. Why would someone drug the captain? How? And more importantly, who? I got back into the cockpit. "Air traffic control, we need to make an emergency landing. The captain has been drugged and is unconscious." The response? "Negative. Unauthorized event detected. Clearance denied." Denied. They refused us emergency clearance? Why? Was there a bigger threat they weren't telling us? The co-pilot? There was no co-pilot. He had called in sick that morning. No one replaced him. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now it felt like a setup. I was alone. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just an accident. It was something bigger. Something deliberate. Was it terrorism? Corporate sabotage? Something even darker? I don't know. But someone didn't want that plane to land. Eventually, after arguing with air traffic control and demanding immediate support, I was granted limited instructions for landing. They patched in a senior pilot through remote communication. He talked me through each step. Lower the altitude, adjust the flaps, slow your speed. Gear down, approach angle, 3 degrees, altitude, 1,200 feet. My hands were sweating, my heart was pounding. But I followed every instruction, and by some miracle, I landed that plane. It wasn't the smoothest landing, but we landed. No injuries, no damage, everyone alive. Captain Reyes was rushed to the hospital. Tests confirmed it. He had been drugged with a sedative meant to knock him out cold. Sarah, the nurse, testified, but no one ever found out who did it. No fingerprints, no security footage. The investigation was closed quietly, swept under the rug, and I was told never to speak about it. I've kept quiet for over 2 years, but I can't anymore. People need to know, because this wasn't just a close call, it was almost a tragedy. And someone out there planned it. Maybe they'll come after me for sharing this. But if I stayed silent, it would mean none of it mattered. And it did. All 276 lives on that plane, they mattered. And I would do it all over again, even if I'm just an air host. If you're watching this, thank you. Thank you for listening. And if you've ever flown and looked into the eyes of a flight attendant, just know we're more than just faces serving food. Sometimes we're the last line between life and death.